Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rolando Milian, and together with my colleagues Sofia Fertusinos at the Cushing-Whitney Medical Library and Molly Knapp, Kate Machowski, and Rana Morris at the National Library of Medicine, we welcome you to this series of talks dedicated to explore the evolution of bioinformatics services in libraries. So the idea to organize this series originated from the Cushing-Whitney Medical Library Bioinformatics Support Hub, celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, which led us to examine the collective past, present, and future of bioinformatics services in libraries. And to share just a little bit of our story, the Bioinformatics Support Hub at the Cushing-Whitney Medical Library was launched in 2014, focusing on retrieval of information, mostly molecular information from knowledge databases. Between 2015 and 2017, the services increased in its collection development, specifically through the licensing of software for data processing and analytical support. The year of 2018 to 2021 marked a period of scaling, characterized by the introduction of a peer-to-peer teaching program, the establishment of the Symbolic Fellowship, and the creation of a new permanent position dedicated to tools using command line. And for the last 2 years, our efforts are being directed towards establishing and strengthening collaborations with various institutional departments and core facilities, for solidifying the service integral role within the academic and research community. So, and it's based on this reflection process that we decided to reach out to our colleagues at the National Library of Medicine to organize this series of 7 sessions dedicated to reflect and inspire us to create, develop, and tailor bioinformatics services within our library context. Today, we will hear about synergizing libraries with NCBI and NIH resources. And our speakers are Rana Morris from the National Center for Biotechnology Information, National Library of Medicine, Molly Knapp, Network of the National Library of Medicine Training Office, and Kate Machowski, National Library of Medicine. So our first speaker, Rana Morris, is a National Center for Biotechnology Information Customer Experience team member and the Outreach Program Lead at the National Library of Medicine. Her doctoral, postdoctoral, and research fellowship work integrated disciplines of computational and experimental biochemistry, molecular and cellular biology, and genetics. So Rana, whenever you're ready, so you can start.
Great. Thank you. So I'm Rana Morris. I'm from the National Center for Biotechnology Information, or NCBI, in the National Library of Medicine. And with me is Kate Machowski from the NLM User Engagement Program, and Molly Knapp. And she's from the training office of the network of the National Library of Medicine. We're really happy to participate in this evolution of bioinformatics services and librarians speaker series. And today, we'd like to tell you about how NLM has evolved and works to provide hopefully helpful resources for various scientific, clinical, and education communities, and more specifically for you guys, the librarians. Although many of you probably already know about NCBI, in today's presentation we'll provide some new context for you, describing how NCBI has evolved the publicly accessible resources that are the focus of our programs to meet the needs of our communities. Then we'll describe the Bioinformatics for Librarians course, which has been so successful in training librarians over the years. We'll remind you about, or perhaps introduce you to, some resources which may be of help to you and your clients. And then we'll mention some thoughts and questions we have about our future, and would like to hear some thoughts that you might have in a discussion section at the end. But first, to set the stage, I'm going to be previewing here a new video project that we're working on at NCBI, showing you how through the years NCBI has adapted to meet the needs of the communities we serve. Kate, take it away.
Based on technological innovation in both biological sequencing technology and the use of computers for scientific data analysis, Senator Claude Pepper, along with Congressman Henry Waxman, Senator Edward Kennedy, and Senator Lawton Child co-sponsored House Resolution 393, which was incorporated into the NIH reauthorization bill known as the Health Omnibus Programs Extension Act of 1988. This passed both the House and the Senate and was then signed into law by President Ronald Reagan on November 4th, 1988, establishing the National Center for Biotechnology Information, or the NCBI, as a division of the National Library of Medicine at the National Institutes of Health. NCBI's ongoing vision is to empower the global biomedical community with unparalleled trusted resources that describe the molecular foundations of life with data, knowledge, and clinical evidence to support biomedical research and public health. This presentation focuses on a few time points over the years and illustrates how NCBI has responded to community needs by developing and creating resources to support the use of biological data for the improvement of human health. In the 1980s and 90s, an explosion in the production and use of nucleotide sequences in biological and biomedical research produced a community need for a way to access this information. The NCBI was established to develop new technology and collect and provide access to biosequence and related information. Shortly after it was created, NCBI developed a new piece of computer software called Sequence to collect sequence information being generated by the scientific community. To house these sequences, NCBI created the Entree search system as a structure to both house biological sequences and related metadata and to enable effective searching of this information. NCBI also created the basic local alignment search tool, or BLAST, to search the nucleotide or protein databases and find specific data based on sequence similarity rather than a known name or other term. In 1994, NCBI created a website on the new World Wide Web to provide access for the global research community to the new Entree and BLAST search tools, as well as to all the collected biological sequences and related data. Our website at ncbi.nlm.nih.gov continues to provide access for the world's scientific and clinical communities to a diverse and continually expanding set of biological and biomedical databases and resources. In the 1990s through the early 2000s, the Human Genome Project was created to decode the human genome sequence, thus providing a fundamental basis for the understanding of normal and pathological human biology, and as a resource for the research community to create clinical tools to improve patient care. NCBI created new ways to access and explore this critical data for researchers and clinicians hoping to make critical discoveries. NCBI expanded the use of the popular BLAST tool and created sequence visualization browsers to facilitate exploration of the biological sequences and their annotations. A specific human genome BLAST was created to search this data by sequence. Another specialized BLAST, Primer BLAST, was developed to help researchers use this data to design reagents for their laboratory experiments. The map viewer was created to assist researchers in finding information about genes, proteins, and other annotations in genomic contigs and assemblies. This was improved with the development of the next generation of genome browsers, which provide better interactivity to facilitate exploration of existing genome annotations, perform analysis on displayed data sets, and integrate the researcher's own data into the tool. Recently, a new comparative genome viewer was devised to enable whole genome annotation comparisons across two different assemblies for an organism or to explore genomic relationships between species. As the Precision Medicine Initiative, Cancer Moonshot Project, and other NIH-funded efforts begin to produce useful data for the clinic, NCBI developed the NIH Genetic Testing Registry, or GTR, to provide access to available test information. NCBI has collected genetic variation information in the dbSNP database since 1988, but use in the clinic requires an understanding about their impact on a patient's health. So as the data and effort for classification annotation has progressed, NCBI created the ClinVar database to provide this critical information for clinicians and translational scientists. To assist clinicians in finding data for genetic disorders and to help them understand the pharmacogenomic impact of variants, NCBI developed the MedGen database to aggregate clinically relevant literature for genetic disorders, and has also supported and authored, respectively, two key clinical treatises which are available on the NCBI bookshelf, gene reviews, and the medical genetic summaries. In the late 2010s, with new technology facilitating the rapid sequencing of bacterial and viral genomes, NCBI set up systems for collecting, assembling, annotating, and identifying the origin of pathogen genomic sequences isolated from agriculture, food products, and human sources, all to support the emerging needs of epidemiologists and public health researchers. NCBI has partnered with federal agencies and public health labs across the U.S. and now additional contributors worldwide to develop the Foodborne Illness Pathogen Detection Program and resource. This provides rapid access to biosequence and related metadata in order to assist epidemiologists and research scientists in tracking the source and path of bacterial pathogens. The team continues to work with the community to uncover antibiotic-resistant sequence biomarkers in this data, which can be used to support the development of diagnostics leading toward rapid and effective treatment selection for affected patients. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the NCBI virus sequence and analysis resource expanded and added functionality to provide rapid access to data and ways to explore existing and newly submitted SARS-CoV-2 sequences. In addition, to support research teams throughout the U.S. and across the world who were performing pandemic surveillance, monitoring evolution of this virus, and developing diagnostics and treatments, other NCBI teams curated useful biological data sets from the vast existing available data and resources at NCBI. All were linked from a single data hub to make them easy to find and use. Throughout the years, community collaboration has been essential in our ongoing efforts. We thank you for all you've done and all you continue to do. Together, we are revolutionizing science to improve health and serve scientists and society.
So that was a preview of a video that we've been trying to make for a little while, showing how we have evolved over time in response to the needs of the community. And the needs of the community are often relayed to us by the librarian community. It's often very challenging to know about the needs of our target communities because we aim to serve so many of them, such as scientific researchers, both wet bench and computational, clinician researchers as well as practitioners, and educators and students, of course, in all of these disciplines. And of course, we strive to work with the librarian community who plays such a critical role in a wide variety of institutional types. So now I'd like to turn this over to Kate Majewski, who can talk to you about one of our efforts in helping to work with the librarian community. Kate?
Thanks very much, Rana. At the National Library of Medicine, we see our librarian colleagues as essential connections to our end users. Librarians in hospitals, universities, pharmaceutical companies, other special libraries, and throughout our communities really know our users' needs in ways that are very difficult for us to know here at NLM. If you're not familiar with the NLM, you may not know that while we have a vast collection, a very small number of our patrons visit us in person. Our services and collections are used from our websites. So we work very closely with the network of the NLM Training Office, represented by Molly here today, to identify and meet the most critical needs of librarians in the field so that we can all meet the needs of our end users and further biomedical research, improve clinical care, and improve public and personal health. As libraries are constantly evolving, staying in tune with their needs can be challenging. 5 years ago, we asked our network members about their current and their desired levels of proficiency in different NLM-related topics and skill areas. From this and other sources, we saw emerging needs. The needs to better understand bioinformatics, APIs, vocabulary standards, data management, and more. To us, these are all connected, and hopefully we can talk about that at the end of our presentation. But clearly, librarians were looking toward the horizon, trying to anticipate the future and craft their own role in it. So these are among the main areas of training for librarians that you will hear about from NLM. But let's talk about those librarians with roles in biological data and information in particular. Look at this fantastic group of people. These are some of our presenters for this series who have taken training from the National Library of Medicine. The roles of librarians in bioinformatics span a continuum. You've been hearing about your colleagues' diverse backgrounds and multifaceted programs throughout this webinar series. In one of our recent courses, we even had a librarian who does policy analysis for government and is interested in bioinformatics and its implication for data privacy and anti-discrimination efforts. Recently, we asked alumni of our course for librarians, which I'll tell you about in a minute, about what types of activities their organization is supporting. Research and education predominated, although several did support for management and administration, and a few supported patient care. The other responses included public health work. This same group of alumni reported on the support services they offer at their institutions. Our course alumni's organizations are involved in a variety of support activities. Most provide reference, do consultation, teach classes and workshops, write guides and documentation, and conduct literature searches. About half conduct systematic reviews. Almost half of the respondents are managing data, about a third doing data analysis. Some produce metadata, build or maintain databases. The other responses included collection development, data visualization, and graphic design services. This is just another illustration of the range of services and therefore the range of training needs of today's health sciences library staff. So what does NLM offer? NCBI training for librarians has a fairly long history. It started with a 3-day in-person class 18 years ago in 2006. Boy, I'm feeling old. Then for 4 years, beginning in 2013, NLM Library Operations, the Network Training Office, and NCBI teamed up to offer the Librarian's Guide to NCBI. An online 15-credit pre-course called Fundamentals of Bioinformatics and Searching, offered by Diane Ryan from the University of Buffalo, was a required prerequisite for joining a 5-day in-person class at NLM in Bethesda. A combination of factors, including a moratorium on providing travel funding for instructors, as well as the inability to share this training with librarians who couldn't afford the trip, led us to cease this set of classes and re-envision the training as online only, actually long before COVID forced the issue. In the initial development for our online course, the training facilitators developed a 3-part needs assessment, including surveys, interviews, and focus groups, to craft program goals. They worked with the subject matter experts to write specific, measurable objectives for the course, and then from lecture materials written by Peter Cooper and Bonnie Madek from NCBI developed interactive training in Moodle to meet those course objectives. In the current bioinformatics curriculum group run by the network of the National Library of Medicine since 2013, NLM user engagement program and network staff serve as training facilitators, and NCBI staff serve as subject matter experts. Peter Cooper and Bonnie Madek from NCBI, our original subject matter experts for the course, have retired. On the slide is our current team. On the left, Maida Valyavec-Gratian joined in 2021. To the right of Maida, Wayne Matten joined us just this past summer. They are our current NCBI faculty. Each one of the NCBI faculty who have worked on the course have brought unique perspectives and teaching strategies to the course, creating what we consider some truly engaging content. I, Molly Knapp from the NLM Training Office, and Dana Abbey from Region 4 of the NNLM work with our NCBI colleagues to build the interactive components and to facilitate the course. Laurel Brown, an instructional designer from the NLM User Engagement Program, joined the team 2 years ago, and she has been invaluable in improving the user experience in Moodle. The current course, entitled Bioinformatics and Biology Essentials for Librarians, Databases, Tools, and Clinical Applications, teaches the basics of molecular biology resources from NCBI, including basic functions of the nucleotide, gene, protein, and structure databases, as well as clinical genetics resources such as ClinVar, MedGen, and the Genetic Testing Registry. The overall goal of the course is to offer an introductory online course for librarians, both for librarians who offer or intend to offer bioinformatics services, but really also for librarians who use bioinformatics information on a periodic or irregular basis to serve their patrons. The class is delivered asynchronously in Moodle, where different sections of the course are moderated by different staff. Now, the original backbone of the course was a set of recorded lectures by Bonnie Madak and Peter Cooper. We chunked these into short segments, generally 5 to 10 minutes. Over time, these video segments have been replaced, and only one of the original lectures remain, the rest replaced by more current material, but retaining our key learning objectives and foci. Students practice what they have learned using NCBI databases with the NLM Navigator exercises. And we have two main discussion points in the course, one in the beginning, exploring roles for bioinformatics librarians, and one toward the end, exploring ethics and policy issues related to science and librarianship. At the end of each module, we have a quiz to reinforce the main learning objectives, and the last major assignment of the course is a set of synthesis exercises, which allows students to first revisit major content areas of the course and then respond to some real-life reference questions that are fielded by NCBI customer service to practice strategies for answering common question types. They're also asked to explore bioinformatics research at their own institution or nearby institutions. So the performance results for the course are generally good. Students do well on the quizzes and the assignments. On this slide is data from the first few sessions of our online-only course. The left figure shows self-ratings of student knowledge of the subject area before taking the course. Most respondents rated themselves as coming in knowing 25% or less of the course content, with a couple of students who already had a solid understanding of the subject area when they started the course. The right figure shows self-ratings of knowledge of the subject area after taking the course. So students increased their self-reported expertise in the subject area 36% on average due to the course. But clearly, there are still significant knowledge gaps, reflecting the depth, breadth, and complexity of this topic. On average, 51% of those who begin the course complete it. Now, this is significant, as this is a free 30-hour continuing education course. We do offer MLA continuing education credit, but there are no particular extrinsic rewards for completing this mammoth CE course. To date, 289 students have successfully completed our program. The course wraps up by asking students to compose an action plan for their own future work in bioinformatics. And on this slide here is a compilation of responses from all of our classes so far through spring of 2024 to give you a sense of what students are planning to do with their newly gained skills and knowledge. So far, we've had 20 students who plan to launch a new bioinformatics-related service at their institution. I'm guessing a couple of those folks are here today. We've had a couple of longitudinal studies of our bioinformatics training, the first following our original Librarian's Guide to NCBI course, and then an in-depth assessment completed by Amelia Lawrence, an NLM Associate Fellow, following our launch of the online-only course. The longitudinal data was consistent, reflecting that the majority of our students are really casual users of NCBI resources, using them on a monthly or so basis, who value and use what they learned. A small percentage, about 2 to 3 students per session, find that our training significantly affects their work life, and they are able and positioned to take what they've learned to find or create new jobs, start new services, or are inspired to pursue further and maybe more formal career training in this area. So I was curious if you have the ability to raise your hand or just give a thumbs up if you have attended the Bioinformatics for Librarians course. See a couple. All right, thank you. So one question that I have about the future of bioinformatics librarianship is its intersection and confluence with other skills and other services that librarians are developing. The attendees of the 2019 webinar, Reflections on Bioinformatics Librarianship, were asked about their plans to work in related areas. And as you can see, data management, publication support, and open access topped their replies. Over half of respondents indicated that they wanted to learn more about coding like R and Python. And other areas of interest included systems analysis, data management, and metadata standards. Clearly, librarians identified the need to work with a variety of data types, not just biology information. So looking more broadly at the need for training on data management and data science, the NLM established the NNLM National Center for Data Services, or NCDS. NCDS coordinates with other network regions, offices, and centers to provide training and resources to increase data science capacity among information professionals. So for example, the center recently debuted a 4-part online series called Data Services on Demand, with courses on research data management, data sharing, open science tools and trends, and data ethics. And also, they offer a short course on generative AI from the website. These courses provide fundamental skills for librarians working with data, including assisting NIH-funded researchers with compliance with NIH policies, including the use of common data elements and the NIH data management and sharing policy. But let's get back to bioinformatics specifically. And we're going to hear again from Rana about other resources, tools, and training available from NCBI.
Thanks, Kate. So in addition to what Kate has described for NLM's efforts to reach librarians, through the years, NCBI has developed a fairly robust outreach program supporting our users as well as our champions, with video tutorials, webinars and presentations, workshops, codathons, and even taking on coordination of conference activities for the organization. As we went along from 1999 through now, we've evolved and shifted our efforts to support both librarians as well as end users, but are now at a crossroads and are currently actually reassessing what we're going to do in the future. So at the end of this presentation, we would love to hear from you what you and your communities value, maybe that we have been doing, what we should consider possibly doing, and we'd love to hear that from you as well. But first, there are some resources we have made available that might help you and your clients that are available right now. The NCBI YouTube channel has been merged with the National Library of Medicine's channel, so it's all in one at this point. There you can find helpful short videos from practical tutorials as well as recordings of webinars, such as the ones shown here on the slide. We've also provided access to training support videos, such as the Bioinformatics and Biology Essentials for Librarians. The URL for the NLM YouTube channel is at the bottom of the slide, or you could just Google to find it. At NCBI, we have an outreach events page as part of our NCBI Insights blog. Again, see the URL at the bottom of the slide. This slide lists all of the activities that we are going to be doing as well as those that we've done in the past. Clicking on any one of them will bring up a detailed information about that event, including links or a button for registration as appropriate. As an example here, we've got a workshop, an introduction to pathogen data at NCBI. After each event has been run, such as this workshop, we update the page to provide a link to the materials that we used in the course. For webinars, there'll be a link directly to the video recording of the webinar on YouTube. For codathons and workshops, such as this one, we post a link to a website containing the full set of materials that you can then use or share, and the recording of the event is there as well. In addition to standard webinars, workshops, and codathons we've done in the past, we've recently run 2 prototype events that I'd like to let you guys know about that were really designed to support specific community needs and requests of communities. This past August, we created the first type of event that we're aware of called the BioEd Summit, which is a modified version of a hackathon, but specifically for teachers and educators to work together in teams to create novel, cutting-edge curricula that will then be used in their classrooms. This week-long event featured workshops in curriculum design, the use of NCBI resources in teaching, as well as a panel discussion with federal funders and really innovative bioinformatics educators. And at the end of the week, each of the teams developed a curricular package which focused on topics ranging from 9th grade biology students learning about evolution through undergraduate biology students learning about the impact of clinically important genetic variants on biology. All of these packages of curricular materials are accessible and downloadable on our GitHub site. A little over a year ago, we got a call from a group creating a new organization called the Africa CDC Consortium. As part of their work, they were hoping to learn how best to submit information and how to get training for their newly hired staff to produce and submit bacterial and viral pathogen genome sequence data so that it could end up in public repositories such as NCBI. As part of this new initiative at NCBI to gather a more diverse set and source of data for the world to use in their research and to monitor outbreaks, we put together a workshop all supported with a website with all the materials available on it and provided trainers to the Africa CDC to help jumpstart their efforts. The teaching materials for this workshop are available on this website and may also be useful for people in our own country and across the globe. We've had lots of requests for repeat performances for both of these events. It's something we're considering possibly doing again as we look into what we're planning for in the future, but we're also really interested, like these, in getting additional suggestions from people in the community. Finally, for now, no good website is complete without a way to learn more and get help about the resources on the website. The NCBI Support Center is linked in the footer of all of our pages where it says help. It's also linked from other places throughout the site as well. Here we provide frequently asked questions, or FAQs, to provide answers to really commonly asked questions. On this page is a button which will open a form to submit a question for a real person to personally answer the question. We have 12 live bodies, not AI, who actually go answer these questions, from how to properly structure a search, to understanding how to interpret a BLAST result, to finding a record for a particular clinical variant, or even just reporting broken links or pages that are not working on the NCBI website. We hope this can provide direct personalized support that you and your patrons need. Kate?
Thanks, wonderful. And to find that and any of our NLM training, you can go to these places. First, our training classes and events are listed in the network catalog and calendar at nnlm.gov. And then our tutorials, recordings, and other training objects, including all of the NCBI content that Rana just described, can be found in the NLM Learning Resources database at learn.nlm.nih.gov. And whenever we offer something new, you'll see an announcement in the NLM Technical Bulletin. So now you have an idea of what we've been offering and how. And now we want to talk about what's next. With the use of current sequencing technologies, the amount of sequence data is exploding, but much of this data is not easy to access because of its volume and lack of good metadata. That's just one example of so many challenges in the information world right now, and we have so many questions. How do we make big data sets usable? How do we properly annotate and provide high quality metadata for sequence data so that we can link those levels of organization in biology? Well, how do we properly annotate any of our data, really? How do we employ machine learning, deep learning, and other forms of AI as part of the solution? We know that librarians at research institutions are facilitating research data sharing. We've heard about some great models from your institutions for supporting research during this webinar series. But in the big picture, are we as library professionals developing the right skill sets for the future? Are we positioning ourselves properly and connecting the right people to handle these challenges? But really, of course, what Rana and I want to know, what specifically should NLM be doing? What are some gaps you see that we or others could fill or help you fill? Let's talk. You can use chat, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Let's hear from you.
And we're taking notes.
Well, without a doubt, I think, one of the challenges with so many resources is just you have to navigate them and you have to see how they apply for your service or not, right? I think that can be a challenge for to adjust the tools that NCBI NLM offer and test them on. I think in previous sessions that was one thing that it was common across services, is that they would need to first learn about their community and then adjust that to what to offer. But like, if we can just initiate the conversation, I really want to hear from everyone at home, wherever you are, everyone joining us today, but here, definitely I see an increasing, I don't know if it's increasing, maybe just for me, but people do feel the pressure of learning to use tools. And in general, they like the easiness of end user softwares, right? But then they feel that they have to learn R or Python or Linux, all of them, to have a proper analysis of their data. So definitely I would say that I see our community asking us for more classes on how to use command line to analyze their own data. I don't know for your
Yeah, I think
experience.
it's the same. So like, how to access all these resources in kind of batch kind of thing. So how to mine all the NCBI's data in a way that we can do it in batch, not like so one by one. It's like using these command line tools and stuff like that. So I think that's also be a very good, useful thing to have.
But I'm sure other people have other challenges. So please share your experience with us. We can only grow together.
Yeah, we definitely explored some challenges in some of the previous webinars that I wonder if they resonate with our audience, especially for example, the NLM library, the on-site library, in their search for finding a bioinformaticist, was mentioned for sure. And I think time management is definitely, when you're starting a new program, finding the time to make the connections, but also having time to build the vocabulary to make the connection in the first place. It is definitely probably a daunting struggle for anyone who's new to the profession or new to a position. And I'm just wondering amongst our audience, if what other challenges maybe you've you've noticed. I can also think with the proprietary tools, cost, return on investment, if you only have 2 people working on something that costs so many dollars, how do you mitigate that, and what role would a library play in connecting researchers to the tools? So we'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like
Yeah.
to speak or throw some stuff in
Unmute
chat.
yourself and just share your experience or challenges, even more so.
So one of the things I've just thrown into chat for you guys, what are those researchers? Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. I put in a flyer that I thought might help for you, which has a very simple listing of the different databases and what's in them. It's an easy, quick thing to look through. And then also some links to ways to search them. There's this separate sheet, which I'm hoping will address what I was just hearing about, where people were like, okay, command line. Where do I get a command line? What kinds of command lines are there? If I do a little bit of R scripting, if I do a little bit of JavaScript, or I do Java or Python, are there APIs? Some people are starting to look in the cloud. So the second handout that I put in there is a data access, which can give you links to find places where you can hopefully learn about how to use those things as well.
I see that Ada, I think it's Ida Miro, what she posted there. I like to have to way to connect to other bioinformatics librarian. And that's something I really appreciated when I went to that course, the picture that you showed in 2019. I was there in that one of the first in taking those. That was very useful. And I was able to connect with other people that were trying to do the same or were doing already the same thing. So I think I agree with Ida in that sense. If we could have a kind of a forum that we can go beyond the online forum, because you can, in person, you can make better connections and discuss with people what are the challenges, what are the things that we're doing. And yeah, if we can have a forum, maybe like a venue that we can go and gather together people who are on the same topic, that would be great.
Yeah, we've had the Moodle forum that we invite our graduates to. It's been very quiet for the most part, but occasionally people will post a question and get an answer from a colleague. And I've wondered for a long time now whether it would make sense to just move that to a public forum. I don't know if it would mean somebody at, one of you maybe, like starting maybe a thread or something on Reddit, like maybe starting a Reddit. And, we can just let everybody know in the bioinformatics forum that exists right now, hey, we're going to chat over here. As the federal government, we're not going to do that for you, but we can certainly let people know if you start something like that.
I didn't, so I actually participated with Ida at a bioinformatics summit in New York on last May. I really don't remember anymore.
Early this year.
March, anyway, early this year. And it was organized by a society for bioinformatics. But I didn't hear about the summit from the NLM, and I think that could have been a great way for fellow librarians, because Ida, we were the only ones from a library there, I think. Yes, yeah, correct. Yes, so, and we keep finding out together, like we are the ones that go to the same conferences, and that can be oh yes,
yeah, that was there.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's it was I think it's a challenge that we have identified, at least, I don't know, for me and Ida, we until we connected with you, and that was one of the reasons we reached out to you to organize this series, is to how do we connect with others, bioinformatics, except for the programs that are really clear and known, right? But other libraries that want to start, or but Ida, please share your your experience if you want.
You should be able to unmute now, but let me unmute you. Ask to unmute. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Hi. So no, I actually am taking I am subject specialist, like my background's in genomics, and I'm going to talk about it next week when I present. But coming into the library, right, without having the library background, and I'm in my 4th year now as a librarian. I struggled in, figuring out the library aspect of it. And I've looked for libraries that have bioinformationists and bioinformatics librarians, and there aren't many officially titled librarians, right? And so I finally, I am taking the NLM bioinformatics and the NCBI thing this year because I wanted to get on the listserv. So that's the point I've reached. Like, I know how to use most of the tools. I'm learning some stuff, but it was mainly so I can connect. And it coincided with Sophia, and Rolando putting all this together. But yeah, getting insight into like what other libraries and librarians are doing for me is really helpful in figuring out, how do I improve my existing services, I think.
And I think there are a number of online forums for all sorts of things that might be a good model system, depending upon who thinks they can start it, take it up. We can support, participate and help answer questions and things like that.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, sounds like it's got to be a community action.
Ida, maybe we can join forces and start one. I think that's the message. And then we invite the NCBI and the NLM to join us there. And Doug, I'm sorry again. I'm sorry, I forgot. That's where I met you actually. So, but I'm surprised that like everyone else here joining today, like, to answer Rana and Kate and Molly's challenge, how could NCBI connect even more with the challenges that you face with your community? How could they address better, questions that your community could benefit from?
Are there platforms that you think are particularly effective that maybe we should be looking into? Are there types of activities that you think would actually hit your group particularly well? Again, we're really interested in what is state-of-the-art current, what is current out there that we can do to help support the various communities that we're interested in.
Can I speak up again? So I went to MLA maybe 2 years ago. One of the region, I don't remember which one, was doing the carpentries workshops for their region. And I think that would be great. I love the carpentry structures. I'm an instructor for them. But broaden it out or make it more, the information more readily known so that, more of us can find out when these kinds of workshops are happening. Because I think that those would help for the librarians that want to learn some about coding.
So do you mean carpentries, but with, specifically biological examples to
So
work?
the carpentries, they have, for example, the genomics workshop, which is specifically for short read data processing, but they have like data libraries, they have the data visualization in R for ecologists. So they have workshops that work with biological data more broadly. I can't remember, I don't remember which ones were being taught for librarians. Let's say region 2 or 4. I don't remember which one I meant. It was another one. But yeah, with biological data, but they already have workshops that have close to, maybe not molecular, they have a molecular one, but that might be, they have, actually I taught they have a genomics for R, which is introducing people to R for
Genomics.
visualizing SNP data, right? So it's really an R workshop. But that kind of thing I think would be useful if anyone in any region teaches it again, just to share it more broadly, because I heard after the fact and it was really for that region.
Thanks. That's a good idea.
I don't know, like, thinking back on the other episodes of sessions of this series, do you think it could be fitting for the NLM and NCBI to have, instead of the format that you, or instead, no, in addition to the format that you have of the bioinformatics and biology for librarians, which is an introduction to the tools. Do you think it could be helpful to make something like a package of a initiator program for someone to try to implement at their library? So
I would say that would be a very interesting grant proposal, like an award. And I'm just brainstorming here, but that I feel like that that would be an interesting project.
Because sometimes it's just so daunting, right?
Yeah.
To think, what am I going to, so for Ida, for me, even for Rolando, we are all specialists, right? We all came from the science into the library. So we have our own bias, I guess, or specialists, specialty to teach. So we go with that, right? And then we can branch into other things. But for a librarian, I think it may be, and I would love to hear from people joining us today, if you feel that I am, I relate, that this relates with your experience, it may be very daunting. So how could we have like a package, like if you are trying to implement a bioinformatics
Yeah.
service
One
at
thing,
the library.
a whole service. Yeah, a whole service. That's a,
Start with this, like what I heard, I forget who said it, but like that they started, or even you started with the more like mining the databases, right? The
more NCBI.
NCBI databases, right?
yes. Kate adds an implementation guide for library bioinformatics services. Another thing that makes me, thing that it makes me think of is, and I don't know, maybe somebody here with us today knows, has a book been written? Is there a in the library literature about a more current book? And maybe there is a place for this series is, generating ideas, like maybe it's time for a place. And my final idea, and also a plug for that wonderful NCBI workshop they did with the educators this summer, is examples. When you talk about an implementation guide, a lesson plan, how do I go to an undergraduate genetics, like one-off session, and where do I even start beyond like this is how you log in to remote access? Like how do you make that resonate with a learner so that they're curious, they want to go in and explore these NCBI tools, and a librarian, you need a good example, and you don't necessarily, and there's kind of a vacuum there. Rana, Raina?
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, and so these teachers, the first thing they had to do, we grouped them by the classes and the level that they were teaching at. They all had to come up with a story. So story-based education really drags in the reader. So each of these, and then you have the link, and I'm sure we'll be able to provide the slides as well. Each of the different curriculum has a story associated with it. And then that can then drag the students in, and then they have them go through and use the exercises. Our workshops that we teach at NCBI, which again, if you go to our outreach events page, all of our old courses, they're all still up there. They all have some kind of a story or a piece of the news or something that can provide a use case or a case study. And then we go through how you would find the information. That is all available for you on the Outreach Events page. That might be a good starting point that might help you guys. You are totally welcome to grab and use any of that. I've had a number of librarians ask me if they could use my classes as the basis for what they do in their own libraries, and you are absolutely 100% welcome to do that. If there's something specific you're looking for, let us know, because we might already have something that you could use.
Do you want to read?
And I have oh yeah, please go ahead.
Someone, Caroline puts a comment, says, I'm the outreach lab and coordinator for the NLM Region 5, and we and several other regions hosted library carpentry workshops periodically throughout the past few years. One caveat with hosting a library carpentry workshop is a ratio of attendees to instructors. It's important that the instruction model, also the classes are usually capped at 25 seats. It's great to hear they were of interest to you, and we will continue to explore ways to offer library carpentry lessons to our users. Great. And Elliot Smith says, having a bank of examples would be very helpful. In my instructions, I've used examples from the bioinformatics course of an NCBI office hours, but it can be hard to go back and find a specific example. Yeah, that's also interesting too, yeah.
So
Wait. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sophia, to cut you off, but we're running up to, we have about 3 minutes left before the official end, and we can stay on for maybe a little bit, but your time is important. We're going to share a couple links in chat. The first I'd like to share is the Genetics 101 Resource Guide, which is a network of the National Library of Medicine resource we put together. I'd also like to plug, I don't have a link, but Elliot Smith has a wonderful guide, like the top, one of the best, and Elliot, if you can share that in chat, that's another great resource. Also going to be putting a certificate of participation for today in the chat. And please fill out our feedback survey. It will open at the end. And thank you to our wonderful speakers, and Sophia, carry on.
Yes, I appreciate you interrupting me because I always go on and on. So I was just going to say, how could that be implemented? How would that repository of resources for librarians could be implemented? Would it be that something that NCBI could provide?
Well, I will give you one tip in the future. We now have a new service inside NCBI where we're going to be able to more easily, it's a CMS, the content management system, which we're going to be more able to easily create and provide resources. And we are looking at completely overhauling and redesigning our learning website, which would actually have all of our courses and our course materials and the tutorials on YouTube and things. And so we will be looking for people who might be interested in doing some user interviews and possibly doing some beta testing as we develop that new site probably over the next year. So that's in the future. I'm glad you guys mentioned that. That's something that a number of the teachers in the summer actually mentioned too. We need something that makes it a little easier to find things. And so I've actually written that down, database of examples. So all of this stuff actually really does help us. I appreciate it.
And would that database of examples have a suggestion box?
Could be. Let me write that down. A suggestion box as a suggestion. Sounds great.
Because that's the way that, people that are not in your right, in your team, that we can provide our examples, or you can reach out to the community for examples, right? And just like hash out. Yeah. So I will, for once, not talk over time. So I just want to thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. And please come to the next and final session about customizing bioinformatics support for diverse communities. And we're going to continue this discussion. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you to the presenters.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.